Welcome back to my kitchen. If YouTube brought you here, welcome. My name is Stacy, and around here I create quick, easy, delicious, affordable meals. Well, today it is all about desserts. Do you have a sweet tooth? I know that I do, and I could use a little portion control. So instead of making a giant dessert, we are going to be making desserts for one today. I have a microwave version, I have a no-cook version, and I have a couple, of course, in my crock pot. I know, are you surprised? You shouldn't be. But what do you say? Let's get to it. You know it's going to be a great dessert when Betty's on the counter. This Crockpot blueberry crisp is going to come together so quickly and so easily. Before I talk about what we're going to need for this dessert, I wanted to let you know that if you're watching on a TV, I'm going to put a QR code here. If you open your camera app and you scan that QR code, it will take you right to my website for the printable recipes. Something new to try. Let me know in the comments if that QR code worked for you. I'd love to know. Now, back to the recipe. For our blueberry crisp, we are going to start with some frozen blueberries. If you're going to use fresh blueberries, you're going to need a little bit more water with this. But since these are frozen, I'm only going to need 2 tablespoons of water. So I have my 1 cup of frozen blueberries. That's going to go down inside of the crock pot. And then I'm just going to add that 2 tablespoons of water. If you're working with fresh berries, you need to go in with 1/4 cup of water. Now, let's make our crumb topping. We have a tablespoon of almost melted butter here. The almond flour and the gluten-free oats is what keeps this gluten-free. If you're not gluten-free, you could definitely just substitute regular flour in here for this. So 2 tablespoons of almond flour go in. 2 tablespoons of gluten-free oats go in. And 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. To this, we're just going to add 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon because I love blueberries and cinnamon together. It's so good. So we're just going to kind of stir this around just a little bit, and then we'll just sprinkle it on top of the blueberries. Simple, simple. And we'll just sprinkle it on. Now, to cook this, we're going to either cook this on low for 4 to 5 hours or high for 2 to 3 hours. But no matter the temperature, whether you're cooking high or you're cooking low, the last 30 minutes, you're going to want to come in with a spoon and just crack the lid the last 30 minutes. So I will see you in 2 hours. Our 2 hours is over, and you can see I had it vented with the wooden spoon, and look at this. Now, I don't have any vanilla ice cream, but I do have some ready whipped cream. So I am going to top this with some whipped cream, but I cannot wait to dive in. Even if you aren't gluten-free, I think this one will be a great one. The cinnamon and the brown sugar, they all smell divine. Look at that perfect bite. The oats, that topping, the blueberries. Now, after my little taste test, I will tell you, the oats are chewy. You're not gonna get a crispy, toasty oat from this. If that's important to you, I would toast the oats before cooking and then put the toasted oats in with your crumble topping. Whipped cream, ice cream, a spoon. However you want to eat this, it's a winner, and I think you'll love it. Try it, friend. This recipe may be a repeat for some of you, but it was so good that I had to do it again. We are going to be making a cherry no-bake cheesecake for one. I am so excited. This was one of the most popular cottage cheese recipes, not only in that video, but also in my house. It's delicious and you are going to love it. Now I have cottage cheese here. If you wanted to swap it for Greek yogurt, you could do that as well. I have a half of a cup, and then I'm gonna use the Jell-O cheesecake. I have 2 tablespoons, and this is the Jell-O cheesecake mix that I'm gonna use. There is a sugar-free version. My store just didn't have it, so I'm gonna go with the full sugar version. And then you're gonna need 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. If you do 2 tablespoons, it'll be really thick. 3 tablespoons will be just a little bit, I don't want to say runny because it won't be runny, but it won't just be quite as thick. You can adjust your thickness with your milk. Now I'm going to run it through my NutriBullet, but if you can find the whipped cottage cheese, you don't need to do this. And obviously if you're going to use the Greek yogurt instead, you wouldn't need to use a blender. We're just trying to get the cottage cheese thinned out and smooth. We're just going to put everything in our blender cup here. Super easy. Now you will see off to the side I have those cherries. I have 2 tablespoons of chopped cherries. You can substitute anything. In my cottage cheese recipes video, I did blueberry and it was absolutely delicious. So we have cherries because cherries are in season right now. So I thought cherry cheesecake sounds divine. So here we go. Put our Jell-O cheesecake mix in there. And then I'm going to go in. This is 3 tablespoons of milk. I'm just going to whir this up a little bit in the NutriBullet, and I'll be right back. Now that our cottage cheese is all smooth, you can see here how thick it is. I mean, it doesn't even budge. It is super thick, super creamy, super delicious. Alrighty, so I've got all of the cheesecake filling scraped out. I had to scrape off my blade too because there was a lot left on the blade. And now all we have to do is top it with our cherries. And I think this was about 3 or 4 cherries that I chopped. So just a few cherries, just a few ingredients, and you have a cherry cheesecake for one. I hope you try this one. It is so good. How does peach cobbler for one sound? And it's in our crock pot. You know, I love a peach, and peaches are in season right now. Even if they aren't though, you can still do frozen peaches, so you can make this recipe anytime. I'm gonna use a half of a cup of fresh peaches, but you can also use a half of a cup of frozen peaches as well. I also have a teaspoon of sugar and a half of a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I'm just gonna put that right over the top of these peaches. And I'm just gonna stir this up really quick, and I'm gonna let this sit, whoops, just a little bit, so those peaches can kind of soak up that sugar and the cinnamon. Speaking of sugar, that sugar is for our topping. So we have 1/4 of a cup of milk, we have 1/4 of a cup of sugar, 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and since we're using all-purpose flour, we're also gonna need some baking powder. We're gonna need a half of a teaspoon of baking powder, which is already in here with my flour, and a pinch of salt. All right, I'm just gonna add that pinch of salt right here on top of my flour and my baking powder. I have a tablespoon of melted butter here. Now we don't want it to stick to our crock pot, so we're going to come in with just a little spray and spray the crock. And then we'll pour those yummy cinnamon and sugar peaches right in there. Kind of spread it around a little bit. I'm just going to put my sugar in with my milk, and then my flour, baking powder, and salt goes in there as well. That's going to be our cobbler topping. Stir all of this together, and we're going to pour it right on top of those peaches. I did just go in with my whisk to break up that flour a little bit. It was just looking a little clumpy. You may need to do that. If your flour is clumpy, break out the whisk, friend. There we go. Now we can pour this right over the top of the peaches. And then we're going to top it with our butter. Now you can cook this on high for 2 hours or low for 4 hours. I'm going to go high. Now, regardless, whether you cook it on high or low, you're going to need to vent this. It creates steam inside your crock pot, and you want the crust to kind of harden on the top, so you're going to need to release that steam for about 30 minutes or so. Alrighty, so I'm going to cover this, cook it on high for 2 hours. How about that scoop? The perfect bowl of peach cobbler. All that it's missing is a scoop of vanilla ice cream. I think one of the most classic desserts for one is a mug cake. You see mug cake recipes everywhere, from chocolate to funfetti. Well, this vanilla cake is one that I got. Now, I'm sure I'm going to butcher the name, and I apologize, but it's Fantabulosity, I believe. I will link it in the description box so that you can go over to her blog and you can see this recipe. When I Googled it, it was one of the top-rated vanilla mug cakes. So I just had to try this one. Now, one thing for your mug cakes, you want to make sure that the mug that you're using says that it's microwave safe. It's going to go in there for about 90 to, I think, it was between like 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes in her recipe. The handle will get a little hot though, just so you know when you go to pull it out of the microwave. Her instructions are very specific. You need to mix together the vanilla and the milk. I have a teaspoon of vanilla to 1/4 cup of milk, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar into our liquid ingredients. Now I have 2 tablespoons of butter already melted in my mug here. So we're going to stir that up, and then we're going to place this inside that melted butter, inside, over the top, either or. Combine them together. Alrighty, and then to that, we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. So that will go in, and then we're going to add 1/4 cup of flour. Another thing that she's very specific on is just to stir it until it's combined. If you kind of beat this until it's smooth, her word is gummy. It may get a little gummy. So we're just going to come in with a fork and stir it just until it's combined. There are some flour clumps in there, but I'm not gonna be overly worried about it because she said just until it was combined. Now we're gonna put this in the microwave for 90 seconds. And like I said, it's between 1 minute and 30 seconds and 2 minutes, depending on your microwave. But I'm gonna go in at 1 minute and 30 seconds. 90 seconds later, we have a perfect vanilla cupcake. Now with this, you could ice it, you could frost it with Nutella, you could sprinkle some powdered sugar on the top, but honestly, you don't have to do any of those with this. I grabbed a fork so you could see how light and fluffy this is. Now this is not the first time that I'm making this recipe, so I already know that it's delicious, but it's just so springy. Remember, there was no egg in this at all, and it was done in 90 seconds. If you need a sweet treat in a hurry with pantry ingredients, this is it, friend. Try this one. It's really good. Well, friend, did you find a dessert for tonight? I bet you have all the ingredients for that vanilla mug cake in your pantry right now. So what do you say? Try it tonight and then let me know in the comments what you think. I love creating these recipes, and I love it when you let me know in the comments what you think of them and if you made any changes as well. I love to hear those variations too. I hope that you enjoyed these desserts, and I hope you try at least 2 or 3 of them. I'm here every single week bringing you those quick, easy, delicious, affordable meals, and I hope that you join me. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss next week's video. I'll see you real soon, friend, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye.